Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media.
Welcome
home, y'all. This is episode 30 of Native Land Pod. We have the Dirty 30 already. I am your host, Tiffany Cross, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Angela Rye and Andrew Gillum. Welcome home, y'all.
Hey,
What's
y'all.
up? Hey, fam.
It's been a crazy week. I have to say, like, when it comes to politics, it feels like a week is an eternity in politics. So every time we get off air and we come back to the next week, it's like 100,000 things have happened.
Right.
How have you all like processed all this information? During the Trump administration, I always said like trying to cover him was like trying to catch confetti. And so sometimes I feel like some things like slip through the cracks, some things I can't keep up with. I will tell you guys today, I am looking at what is happening in the Middle East. So big news out of the Middle East, and I'm curious what effect that will have on the administration. But by tomorrow, it'll be a whole other story. But how y'all feeling with this new wind and swing in the campaign?
I took some days off, so.
Well, you know why you took days off, Andrew, because it was your birthday.
Cause Mo.
Happy birthday, Andrew Gillum.
Thank y'all for the love, and thank y'all also our listening family and everyone who sent birthday shout outs. It was really overwhelming. Had a great birthday dinner, and then we turned the weekend over to the kids who all wanted to do breakfast with Daddy 101, lunch with Daddy 101. Nobody can cook but me, right?
Don't do that.
And that's putting it
I'm telling
mildly,
Jay.
right? But I had a great time. But in
How
truth,
old did
to
you
answer your
turn?
question,
Can I ask
Tiff,
real quick?
45.
Right, okay,
It's
so
better
you're
than that last
45.
president, though.
Can I ask how old do you feel?
Oh, it depends on how I wake up. My back hurting, I'll feel 90.
Yeah.
And then some days I feel like a spry 30,
Yeah.
like our episode number.
Yeah.
So it just, as they say, age ain't nothing but a number. It's more like age is like how you feel.
Yeah.
You're about how old you feel. But I feel really good. I feel really blessed, and looking forward to this next 365.
I remember thinking 45
But
was old.
I disconnected.
Good.
I remember thinking 45 was, and I think I still think it, but I'm it now.
Yeah.
So.
They say 45, like, or old is 20 years from wherever you are. So the older you get, the younger these older numbers get. I know in my mind I'm 28. Until I talked.
You look a spry 28.
Thank you.
I see it.
Well, I feel 28 until I talk to a 28-year-old, and it's like, no, chick, you in your mid 40s, baby.
No. Talk to your own peers.
Well, happy belated, Andrew.
But y'all
anyway,
had some time away too.
Oh, yes.
No, I was just saying y'all had some time
we
away too.
did.
I'm just curious, like, do y'all feel like you miss something when you're away, or like, are you like, whatever, I'll fit in where I get in when I come back?
I disconnected, but I think Angela was looking at her phone.
I actually left my phone quite a bit, Tiff, and I told you this.
You did.
I left it quite a bit. It was great to get away. We have an annual girls' vacation with the Machetes, and we had a good time. We made sure to send our brother Andrew a happy birthday video from Mexico.
Beautiful video.
And there will be some clips posted. There's already one circulating where Latasha Brown was getting a kiss from a sea lion, and I didn't look too pleased or excited about it. So those things will be circulating. But I tell you what I am excited about, 47 being Madam President, not Madam Vice President. So I'm excited about talking about this and all the things in this episode.
Yeah, I think let's get into it because, there's so many opinions and so much information out there. And one of the things on vacation, Andrew, that Angela and I talked about is I was saying, like, I don't want to spend a bunch of time picking over everything right-wing Republican extremists say about Vice President Harris. I just, like that, I just don't like it. But Angela had a different perspective, which actually like won me over and convinced me. So Angela, what was your counterpoint to me saying, I don't want to spend a bunch of time talking about that?
A bunch of time talking about West Side. I was trying to change
so Angela's point was
about what the right has to say.
So Angela's counterpoint was, but people need to know what to say. Like when they say, "Oh, she's a DEI hire," that's such nonsense to me that I'm like, why would we spend our time? Our audience knows she's not a DEI hire. But Angela's point was, I think we should arm people with a retort.
I was like, Tiff,
with a
now
counterpoint.
I don't remember what I said.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
but that is true.
Yeah.
You know what else, Taraji? I am a DEI hire, and I'm proud of it. I think
Taraji.
I'm about to tell
What
you.
is going on with Angela? Why did she call me Taraji?
Taraji.
I
No,
don't know.
I'm not talking about you, girl. Let me make my
Okay.
point about Taraji P. Henson. What I was about to say was, I am a DEI hire. Kamala Harris will be a DEI hire. You know what DEI means now?
Definitely earned it.
Definitely earned it. So I'm
Yeah.
excited
There it
about
is,
talking about that.
reclaiming
our
I still-
titles.
What's the Taraji? Forgive me for not knowing. What's
Taraji
the
posted it. She posted it. That's where I
Oh.
saw it. Relax, ma'am.
Oh,
I know you're
I didn't
Tiffany.
see it.
She's been leading.
I'm relaxed.
She's been
I
leading
just
said,
showed
why
up
did
to
you-
be
Taraji.
clear.
Why did you call me Taraji? I
Yeah,
did.
I
No, I
didn't
mean,
get
Although
it.
that
we
would
love
be a
Taraji.
compliment. I love her too. But you should have your own name. It's wonderful. And you've done so many great things.
But moreover, I love that she's been so at the forefront. I mean, we talked about Project 2025 some time ago, but by and large, you know, I think everyday folks hadn't really plugged in. And then she goes to the BET Awards, she shouts it out, she gives it, you know, its time and its space, and it blows up as like #1 search.
Our
so
YouTube
I
video is
appreciate this
popping
DEI.
on what is Project 2025. So shout out to Taraji and whatever
And
else
shout
Tiff
out to
wants us
Joy.
to cover in this episode.
Joy Ann
Yeah,
Reed,
she did a special on
did a
Monday.
whole episode.
She did an incredible. That's exactly
Yeah.
right. That's exactly
So
right.
we're going to get into all of this on the episode. We're also going to talk about the VP stakes. By the time you are listening to this episode, there is a chance that Vice President Harris would have named her running mate. So we'll get into that. And we, Andrew, I know you want to talk about the child tax credit, which means a lot to you. For obvious reasons, and probably a lot to a lot of our listeners as well. So let's jump right in. Do you guys mind? Because I want you all to know that Angela has been reading Project 2025 line by line, and one of our listener questions. Donald Trump has been trying to distance himself from Project 25 out of the blue.
Yeah.
And one of our viewer questions points this out, and I think is a great way to kick off the show. So let's roll that question. Nick, I believe this is from Gil Douglas.
Hey, Native Land Pod. My name is Gil Douglas. I live in Dallas, Texas. And I don't actually have a question. I'm more like have just a comment. As we are encouraging folks to have conversation around Project 2025, which I wholeheartedly support. I'm reading it myself. I also want to make sure that as we acknowledge and understand that Donald Trump is trying to separate himself from that manifesto, that he actually has a series of videos out there that speak to his platform, his intention around what he would do should he get into office. It's called Agenda 47. Now, I've not listened to Agenda 47 yet because his voice makes my ears bleed, but I am going to listen to it because I think there'll be parallels between that and Project 2025. And as he continues to say, I'm not proud of Project 2025, that has nothing to do with me, then I think we need to encourage folks to go listen to the things that he has put out there himself in Agenda 47. You'll probably be able to draw parallels between the two, but it allows us to have the conversation with him about what he's actually said, while he is trying to distance himself away from something that we all know he will implement should he ever get elected. Thank you. Y'all have a great one.
Yeah, thank you so
That's
much.
real.
I love our listeners and our viewers turning in these great questions and comments, letting us know that they definitely feel at home. So that's the most important thing. I will say, Donald Trump cannot distance himself from Project 2025. We know from reports, I think 3 weeks ago, that 140 people are associated with Project 2025 who used to work for Donald J. Trump, right? So there's no distancing, whether you call it Project 47, Project 2025, Project Throwback 45, Project January 6th, Project Supreme Court got bigots on it. Whatever you call it, it is Donald Trump's plan. They have been wanting to burrow in employees in the federal government who were partisan and would work the Heritage Foundation agenda since Ronald Reagan. Like, let's be very clear about the fact that nothing has changed. Their Make America Great Again is to make America Handmaid's Tale again. And we're not here for it. So we know exactly what it is. We're not confused and we can move right along. But I do look forward to getting more into the 900 pages where they take away more of women's rights, where they try to chastise and punish the LGBTQIA community, where they try to make children work beyond what is okay for labor laws. All of that. I look forward to talking about how they would like to defund Head Start and make life more difficult for our seniors who have definitely served this nation and helped to build it. So let's talk about it another time.
Well, I think it's important for the viewers to know what exactly is in Agenda 47. And one thing a lot of people have given the Republicans credit for is the First Step Act, which we've talked a little bit about on this show. The First Step Act was introduced by Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. He did have a Republican counterpart join him in that. It was a bipartisan piece of legislation that was intended to correct some of the previous injustices when it comes to crime. Now, I never gave Republicans credit for this. I think, because they pulled the knife 6 inches out our back, it was still in our backs nonetheless. And all of that work that they attempted to do, they are now, or attempted to undo rather, they are now reintroducing in both Project 2025 and Agenda 47. Some of those things include the death penalty for drug dealers. Now, one wants to define, well, what exactly is a drug dealer? If you sell in a nickel bag of weed someplace where it's not legalized, are you then eligible for the death penalty? Another thing, he wants to invest significant amounts of the federal budget into police. Hiring more police, training more police. That has not served us well. The last time we saw something like that was during the era of George H.W. Bush, who tripled funding for criminal justice efforts that basically declared a war on Black people. Donald Trump wants to implement stop and frisk programs across the country. And this is when someone a law enforcement officer can just come to you and stop you for any reason and frisk you. A lot of people already live in stop and frisk areas, whether it's legal or not, of harassment. Like this. We just saw what happened with Sonia Massey, which Angela talked a bit about last week. He also wants to abolish the cash bail system. We don't have to recount how many people have been negatively and adversely impacted by that, from Khalif Browder to the names that you've never heard, who were just in prison because they couldn't afford bail. He wants to overhaul the Department of Education to allow minors to be disciplined. This is the quote unquote pro-life party who purportedly cares so much about children. He wants to take federal tax dollars and create something called American University that's free education. And you can imagine with the wars on things, their imagined boogeyman of critical race theory that really isn't taught in K through 12. They want to ban things like that at this American University. I can't imagine what they would teach. So there's a lot of dangerous policy. And I wanted to
the whitewashing of American
history.
Exactly.
And I wanted to point out the crime part of this, because there's a significant number of people out there who misattribute Vice President Harris's record as a prosecutor. And one of those people is my friend. I love you, brother, and I appreciate what you did. And that's D.L. Hughley. And he has since informed and educated himself and taken it upon himself to help educate voters and his listeners. So if we can, I want you all to take a listen to what D.L. Hughley said, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
I have said before, I used to repeat some of the same things ad nauseum that people are right now. Oh, she blocked up a lot of Black men. I lived in this state my whole life. I had an occasion to talk to her on several occasions. I accused her on this radio station, on this network, on the same things that people are doing right now. If you are the people right now who are misquoting her record, we are not the same. If you believe that her locking people up from weed is worse than a man who says he wants to give dope dealers the death penalty, we are not the same. If you want me to remember her past but not Trump's past, we're not the same. If you want to remind me of her record but don't want to talk about Project 2025, have you ever noticed the same Black people that want to tell you she sold all this weed and locked all these people up, tell you they don't believe that 2025 is Trump's plan for his second term? There is a reason for that. If you're telling me you're not going to vote for her because she has a white husband, then we're not the same. Well, she ain't Black enough. I tell you what, she's a Black woman. She went to Oakland. She's from Oakland. She went to an HBCU. She's an AKA. She had a boyfriend named Willie. And she got a first name that's hard for everybody to pronounce. It sounds different than it's spelled. That's Black enough for me. But what I do know for sure is that she can win if we decide it is so.
I mean, DL's a comedian, so obviously there were some jokes in there, but a very serious message, Andrew. And I feel like he was directing this towards a lot of Black men. Curious your thoughts, and what is like the chatter you hear?
I got other issues.
Let's lay it out. Let's talk about your issues.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not, because it's personal with regard to him. I do appreciate setting the example of learning from your past mistakes and being better, and hopefully on the pursuit of continued betterment, as we all should be. And moreover, hopefully setting an example for all of us that when we get it wrong, that we can, as loudly as we call out our wrongness, can loudly pronounce what is right. So I appreciate from him that example. May it continue?
I take issue with a couple of things here too. I think it's important when we strive to fact check that we don't throw out things that also are a little incorrect. And even the highlight about Willie, I deeply, deeply, deeply hate. And I wish that he didn't. It's so petty. It's so petty and unnecessary, and it gives them ammunition for something that we don't need. This is, we're in a campaign season where I often say it's a political war, where on another channel they can call Kamala the original Hawk Tuah girl, right? Like, why are we feeding into any of that? Like, I wish that he hadn't done that. I will also say that I wish that he'd said the actual number of people that were locked up for marijuana charges while Kamala Harris was DA was 45 people. Is that too many before, marijuana was legal in some states? Arguably, right? 45. But let's compare that record to every other prosecutor in the country. Let's compare it to see how she did. And if you look at the things that she said, whether it was at the State of the Black Union at Howard or was while she was running for office, she was a very progressive prosecutor at that time. And I think that her Senate record fulfills that legacy of being very progressive on criminal justice reform, on police reform, on voting rights, on Black maternal health, on how we earn education and how we earn a living. She has been extraordinarily progressive. And by that, I'm not just talking about liberal, right? I'm talking about someone who's thinking about the ways to move us forward.
Well, I'm glad that you all added to what D.L. Hughley was trying to do. I do think it was with good intention, but I definitely hear you guys. But we got a lot more to talk about because Donald Trump, by the time you guys listen to this podcast, will be speaking to the National Association of Black Journalists, and I got a bone to pick about that. So we're going to pay some bills and pick this conversation up on the other side. So we have been talking about this a lot in our group chat. I'll tell you guys. So the National Association of Black Journalists invited both presidential candidates to speak to their convention, which is happening this week in Chicago, Illinois. Vice President Harris had a scheduling conflict because she's campaigning. So she, offered what she could. Reportedly, she offered a video to which NABJ declined. And Donald Trump has offered to show up.
A live chat, too.
I'm sorry?
A live chat. I think she offered as well a live chat.
Like a Zoom.
Not being
to join remotely,
Zoom,
and they declined. Yeah. And so Donald Trump accepted to be there in person, to be interviewed by 3 journalists. I put that in quotes because one of those journalists is Harris Faulkner, who is from Fox News. And we all know the challenges with that. I just want to say I do not agree with this decision. I strongly condemn it. Again, I understand that this has been the tradition of NABJ for a long time. You invite both presidential candidates. But to treat this like it's a normal election, like Donald Trump is a normal candidate, to me, this is what happens when Black reporters take on the personality of white-run newsrooms and then start moving with white sensibility. Donald Trump has been insulting to journalists, all journalists, but specific journalists in particular. April Ryan, longtime NABJ member. Yamiche Alcindor, longtime NABJ member. Jamel Hill, longtime Machete member and NABJ member. And our girl, he actually called for her to be fired while he was president. It is so disrespectful. There is a whole contingency of an LGBTQ task force. He is his administration, his policies are very anti-LGBTQ. This is a place when we gather where we feel safe. And they have disrupted that. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I think it's disrespectful and an embarrassment to NABJ. And to me, they have increasingly proved they are less relevant today by making decisions like this. But Angela, I know you have thoughts. Andrew, you have thoughts. Angela, what do you think about it?
I think first, NABJ continues to be a disappointment. I actually posted last night that this to me is an extension of the harm that they themselves caused by not asking questions after your show was canceled 3 days before the election in November, and they refused to really engage. And I think, to me, when you can't ask tough questions of networks, but you can ask softball questions and arrange for a white supremacist, an insurrectionist, a terrorist, and a serial offender questions, because he said he wants to show up and he wants to know what the hell do we have to lose, I think that's highly problematic. You have a historic candidate who can't come because she's going to the funeral of a Congressional Black Caucus member, Sheila Jackson Lee, where Kamala Harris was very active as a member. You would think that they would understand the situation. I think, moreover, if they're, and to be fair to Kamala Harris's campaign, they did release a statement saying that all Donald Trump is going to get up there and do is lie about the accomplishments he's made and done on behalf of Black people. So I hope that they will rethink inviting her virtually so she can speak to the Zetas, so she can go to SJL's funeral, and God rest her soul, but also be more mindful about what our obligations are as Black people in media, as Black journalists to cover. But this is exactly what Tiff said. It's a safe space for her. It ain't never been a safe space for me. So I don't go there. I wish y'all the best, and I hope maybe real soon, maybe this convention, you elect better, stronger leadership that actually has integrity and knows what journalistic standards are all about, with the remembering first to do no harm, especially to your dues-paying members.
Yes. And I've gone, and also not only have I gone, but I, in different capacities professionally, I funneled a lot of money to NABJ because they function on sponsorship and contributions. Yeah. And it's worth noting, when they were vocal behind the scenes to me, when everything went down with my show, they were silent publicly. It's worth noting that they take quite a bit of money from NBC Universal. So I don't know. Beyond those facts, that's what I'll say. Andrew,
well, they select which hands they gonna bite that feed them. You see what I'm saying? So a dues-paying member, they'll bite. A sponsor, they won't. And hopefully all of our organizations can do better there. I know we got some conversations to have that are family talk.
Correct.
I mean, that's real. I have to say it does hurt when we have organizations like in the National Association of Black Journalists, who I think I probably connected most, Tiffany, to your comments about taking on and replicating white infrastructure and, a majority thinking methodology when your existence might be different in this space. For instance, if what you exist to do is to perpetuate the same harm that's been perpetuated amongst you in largely white rooms of journalisms, of where the paper gets cut, where decisions get made, where editorial decisions to either prop up your byline or not, are determined, it would just seem to me that you wouldn't then seek to replicate similar types of harm. That maybe it is worth asking, why did we need to be separate apart from the majority organization that exists in our honor and our name as journalists? What do we have to do differently to show up in this space that we don't have free license to do, and therefore we need each other's backing and support to do? We don't create these organizations as asides just to be asides. By and large, these separate organizations, which cater largely to minority groups that are underseen, underheard, promoted, and undersupported, need spaces by which they get to experience that. And I'll just say, as a candidate for a statewide office in a state where Black people are less than 12% of the state's population, it mattered to me when there were 0 Black journalists in the statewide press corps covering politics. It mattered to me that the types of questions that I had to answer, the sorts of lambasting that I got from editorial pages by comparison to my opponents, who were far worse, just worse creatures, worse humans. I attribute to the fact that there were people writing about this who had no sense or sensibility about what shared experience, because there was no shared experience, that might exist on my road to leadership versus somebody else's. So when I draw back from this, I think it is important to have spaces like NABJ, but it's only important to me to the extent that they're helping to level the systems that so often level us in these professions. And I know good people who associate here, and I know they're not time wasters. They're people who are good at what it is that they do. I saw the president, one of the presidents or co-chairs or whatever, on an interview on television earlier, and his comportment was so dismissive of the of Kamala Harris, including referring to her as Kamala. Now, I don't know if they're longtime friends, but given the tenor under which he spoke,
it don't matter.
Of which he spoke, I have to assume probably not. Maybe they've never spoken. Maybe they are not friends. Maybe they don't know each other like that.
Undershirt. We talked about that as well.
And therefore, it might make sense. It might make sense to respectfully refer to her as vice president.
No clue.
Either way, we have to be better, do better.
Yeah.
And to the extent that these organizations just become replicas of their majorities, institutions, then it is of little use.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned. And to the extent that you then rise up to level the systems that have kept you oppressed, then we can talk.
You don't stand in front of, you're talking about the vice president of the United States, and you're giving a press conference to reporters. You're speaking to reporters, and he was calling her Kamala like they just got on the phone yesterday. I thought it was disrespectful. But I know there are people who have a challenge saying her name, Angela.
Yes. It's not me.
Say it. Say her.
Her name is
well, because they keep saying Kamala and all this, and
they do that on purpose.
Intention.
Yeah,
right. It's not a mistake.
I heard
intention.
Doug had some advice for him.
Oh yeah, Doug definitely got some advice.
First gentleman,
not just for them, but for the man who was once commander in chief, much to our chagrin. Why don't we roll that real quick?
I can't wait to hear it.
Now you see my rhymes, real quick.
Roll that real quick, Nick.
Mr. Trump, I know you have so much trouble pronouncing her name, but here's the good news. After the election, you can just call her Madam President.
I love it. Okay.
That's easy
and
advice.
Here's the point. Doug's going hard with the bars. I just figured I'd keep going. Go ahead, Tiff.
Go ahead, abandon ship.
I like your freestyle.
You want me to keep going?
Keep going. Give it to us.
No, abandon. Abort.
Andrew's such a hater. He's such a hater.
Pull up, Maverick.
Look, okay, can I tell y'all? I'm not going to get into it.
Low.
But let me just tell y'all, when we were on vacation, Angela dropped a 5-minute freestyle that was off the dome. That was so good. And there is video. I don't know if that video will ever be released.
The video will never be released.
But
just when I tell you, I'm not even BSing y'all. It was dope.
It was okay. It got kind of rough on that third verse, but it was to Anita Baker's I Apologize. The remix for All My Machetes, I Apollo.
Oh.
And I'll leave it there.
There it is.
Okay, we got to take another break. But before we go to break, Angela, I just want to, because we're going to talk about more challenges on the other side. And I think we're halfway through the show. I would like to introduce a little bit of hope into the conversation. Because I've been feeling apathetic. And I didn't see this, but you were telling us when we were on the phone this morning that Senator Raphael Warnock had something sweet to say, apparently.
He did. We gonna run that thing for all the future and the kids that we have now out in the world, especially Andrew's 3, who he has locked up during the podcast. But they shall soon see freedom, just like Raphael Warnock.
You can get reported in the state of Florida.
They have food and they're comfortable at home. There's air conditioning. But I'm going to run my niece and my nephews to get ice cream through Apple Pay after this. And we'll be back after this break.
Oh, Lord.
So I sat down and I wrote a letter to my 5-year-old daughter. She was 5 at the time, Chloe. And I said, "Dear Chloe, today we confirm to the United States Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson in the history of our nation. She's the first Supreme Court justice who looks like you with hair like yours. As we were confirming her, a friend of mine, the vice president, suggested that I write a letter. By the way, she's the first vice president who looks like you. I write to say that in America, you can be anything you set your head and your heart to be. Love, Dad." I wrote that letter to my 5-year-old daughter. I was so caught up with enthusiasm, I called her on FaceTime to read the letter. She was 5 years old. She listened to the letter. She was not impressed. She said, "Can I go out and play now?" She didn't understand that letter then, but she'll understand it in a few years. I wrote that letter to my daughter, but Georgia, America, now is our time to write a letter to all of our children. Now is our time to write a letter to the future.
All right. So y'all know, you know how I feel about these tax credits. I think I drop a mention of it nearly every episode, but I'm mentioning it today as J.D. Vance, I think earlier this week in an interview, alluded to the fact that because Vice President Harris doesn't have any kids, that whole
cat lady, childless cat lady, is what he said.
Yeah, but he references her not having any biological children means that she would not have been alluding to the fact that she would not have been for or in favor of extending the child tax credit increase, which is baloney, ludicrous, any other word we can think of. But I did want to note that Senate Majority Leader Schumer decided to put on this week's agenda before the U.S. Senate goes on its August recess, actually reeing up that tax credit relief for American families. And just for those of us who haven't followed it closely, back in January, the end of January, a bipartisan group of votes from Republicans and Democrats passed out of the House with 357 votes, tax relief for American workers and families. And a sentinel piece of it was expanding the child tax credit to cover 16 million kids from low income and middle income families, lifting y'all over 500,000 children out of poverty. And just real quick, what it would have done and what it will do if it passes is the bill will raise the cap on the child tax credit for low income families, making all $2,000 now per child eligible for them to claim as part of their tax credit. And as you recall from the COVID relief package, those tax credit refunds came in phases so that folks didn't have to wait until reeing up and completing their tax paperwork at the start of the new year before they could recoup the benefits. The other thing that it did is the bill will stop the long-standing discrimination against low-income families who have multiple kids from being able to claim the entire $2,000 per child. Before, the government required, if you were a low-income family with multiple children, that you get the first $2,000 on one kid, and then it will go down appreciably for other
That's
children.
crazy.
Again, a penalty on those families who have multiple children. I think most folks who are watching this are not optimistic that it will gain the kind of Republican support that it's going to need, the 60 vote threshold that it will need to cross over in the U.S. Senate. But my hope is that this is a piece of legislation that will be picked up before this Congress moves into a lame duck session or out of a lame duck session, and then it is recessed, and the process would have to start, as you know, all over again. For those of you families at home who are following this, many refer to it as the Wyden-Smith tax reform and relief package. Please continue to follow it. Press your members. This is incredibly important, and again has the benefit of lifting over 500,000 children immediately out of the federal poverty standards. It's huge, y'all. If it could.
That's so well. The Democrats have the Senate, so I think it probably has a good chance of passing. But Andrew, honestly,
well, it's got to cross the filibuster threshold.
Okay.
That's where we are now. Is that it won't cross the 60 votes that are necessary, even though there is Republican support for this piece of legislation sponsored by both the Senate Republican and a House and a Senate.
So people
Democrat.
really do need to press their elected representatives to make sure it passes.
Absolutely.
Andrew, honestly, I'm really happy that you brought this up because I feel like the echo chambers I complain about every week is they focus on the same 3 stories, same 3 sound bites, and it really is just an echo chamber of what we already know. If you watch the news at 9 a.m., you're going to hear the same thing by 5 p.m. if there's no breaking news. But in this particular case, there hasn't even been a lot of coverage on this in print media. And I won't say none, but there hasn't been a lot as much as it should be. And I think sometimes if we focus on policy and informing the audience, everybody has an opinion. I don't really give a damn about everybody's opinion all the time. So these constant opinion panels that we see, you leave and it's like, yeah, I know how these who gives a shit people feel. I did not learn anything. And so this is something that has an impact on a huge pocket of the country that we virtually heard nothing about. So that's why you tune in to Native Land, because we don't just opine, we try our best to inform. So I'm happy that that we talked about that. I think it's hugely important. Can I just want to shift a little bit. I kind of love and I am enjoying that the Republicans are absolutely shook. Like they don't know how to deal with a Black woman at the top of the ticket. They don't know how to attack her. They don't know how to vibe with her. Donald Trump said, did y'all know she was 60? I thought she was younger. Yeah, baby, because we age like fine wine, okay? Like you'll never know how old we are. But I want y'all to take a...
You see, he didn't make that comment about his vice president, right?
Exactly.
I thought he was...
Because honestly, I thought J.D. Vance was about 50, and he is not.
I'm telling you.
But I want you all to listen to what J.D. Vance said. Now, he does not know he's being recorded. This was at a fundraising event, and someone recorded the audio of what he said about Vice President Harris entering the race. So take a listen and we'll discuss it on the other side.
All of us were hit with a little bit of a political sucker punch. The bad news is that Kamala Harris does not have the same baggage as Joe Biden, because whatever we might say, Kamala Harris is a lot younger, and Kamala Harris is obviously not struggling in the same ways that Joe Biden did.
Is this a campaign ad for the Harris campaign?
Because
that's truly what it sounded like to me. And I just think it speaks to that we are such an impenetrable force that they really don't know how to deal with us. Angela, you expressed, you have won me over on another perspective that you had, and that is about Secretary Pete Buttigieg. I mean, he's really made the rounds. He went on The Daily Show, which I do watch. I did not in real time watch his interview with Fox News. You know how I feel about people going on Fox News. He went on Fox News Sunday and was an amazing communicator and very compelling. I don't know how many Fox News viewers were receptive, but when I was watching, I was like, this is what Angela was saying. Like, go on there and beat them at their own game. Did you see that interview or see any of the stuff that he's been doing this week?
I did not see it, but I know we have a clip. So why don't we roll that clip and then talk about it on the other side?
Perfect.
That's the real reason I think she's going to win, is that most Americans already agree with her on the issues that they care about the most. Her stance on defending a woman's right to choose versus Donald Trump, who eliminated a right to choose in this country.
Well, he sent it back to the states, to be fair.
Let's be very clear. He is proud of the fact that he demolished the national right to choose in this country, period. Our country has watched our president lead. And yes, we've also seen the fact that he's 10 years older than he was 10 years ago. But unlike Republicans, we'll take a look at Donald Trump and say he's perfectly fine, even though he seemed unable to tell the difference between Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi, even though he's rambling about electrocuting sharks and Hannibal Lecter. They say he's strong as an ox, leaps tall buildings in a single bound.
Well,
we don't have that kind of warped reality on our side.
Well,
on the contrary, the president confronted that reality in what must have been one of the most difficult decisions for an American president to make ever. And he did something that I don't think Donald Trump could even conceive of doing, which is putting his own interests aside for the country. Trying to make people think that crime is up when crime is down under Joe Biden and crime was up under Donald Trump. Now, I don't know how often that gets reported on this network, so if you're watching this at home, do yourself a favor and look up the data.
Well, we invite that.
Great. So if you look this up at home, you will know that crime went down under Biden and crime went up under Trump.
Categories.
And I think the violent crime, for sure.
Child, he
I think
ran
they're not going to have her interview him
circles
ever
around
again.
that hoe. Let me tell you something.
Retired her.
Let me tell you something. At church, since I just called this lady a hoe, at church, they say if you can't say a word, just wave your hand.
Listen,
Secretary
she
Pete
ain't
got in there.
never
Let me tell you,
interviewing him again.
Andrew, she said,
She ain't never interviewing
she
him
could not
again.
get a word in edgewise, and he got her so good. So this is my point. When you are strong on facts, when you know your material, you go and you demolish the opposition. That is what you do. That is why Kamala Harris will go on the debate stage without Donald Trump, because she's still going to stand on the strength of the facts. We do not have to be intimidated by Fox. Sure, it's nonsense, but people are watching that nonsense wall-to-wall coverage every single day. Go and be a disruptor sometimes. Go and meet people where they are in their conspiracy theories. Break down the myths behind all of those conspiracy theories and do it with grace and class if you can. I already told y'all, my ministry is not Fox News. I can't go on there. I'm going to lose my whole career. But some of y'all can go on there with grace and clarity and conviction and fact check them and keep the host from even being able to get a word in edgewise. I think it's great.
Oh, God.
But he's
a
serious. I don't think the vice president should go on there. I do like
I think she should.
I know. You still think he should go on.
He's been doing this for a long time.
Barack
Mayor
Obama
Buttigieg
used
has
to go
been
on there.
on that
He
network
did.
for a long time. And for a long time, they were paired with interviewers who would filibuster them to death so that they couldn't get complete thoughts all the way in. That was the power of that network. I've experienced it firsthand where they interrupt and sort of, talk, right over you. But I do think he's particularly skilled and would be skilled at that. And I'm not advocating for him to be the vice presidential choice. I think I opined about who I thought should get it, the last time we talked about this. But I think he's skilled, and I do think we ought to have surrogate voices on
Andrew,
him.
I want to ask you this. Do you think, as a former candidate, someone who's successfully run multiple elections, multiple cycles, do you see any good coming out of a candidate going on a network that is not in favor of that candidate?
Absolutely, I do. I mean, I went places
you did
all the time where we were not expected to show up, and people respected you even if they didn't agree with you, with showing up and treating them with respect enough to share your opinion, your thoughts, and maybe contemplate their reaction and their response to it. So there's no doubt, but I don't think we ought to get wildly optimistic in the sense that there is a whole swath in this era of Trumpia who will suspend with their own belief, with their own experience, with facts, so long as it comports with his universally described knowledge of what America is. They will look at numbers that say crime is down, violent crime is down to a record low. We are the largest, most massive producer of oil, unfortunately, of in any nation in the world. And we produce more than the United States ever has in the history of the world. But they will look at that and they'll listen to Trump say, we're going to, get our mojo back and produce more oil than we ever have. Yeah. And we're going to bring down crime because it's violent all over the place. Yeah. So I just don't want to delude us into thinking that there are whole swaths of Americans to be gained here by doing this. I don't think that's a reason not to do it, because I do think in close elections, we can sway some folks, and maybe in the right places that 1% may make a difference. But we are, by and large, I think, as a society, really living in alternative universes. They're on Venus and we're on Mars. And I think there has to be some coalescing of that and some recognition of truth. In fact, if we're going to make any advances, and right now there is no recognizable truth, no recognizable fact.
Do you think that resulted in tangible voters for you, Andrew? It sounds like you think it did.
I do, because it got us closer than any other Democrat has in 18 years running for governor of the state of Florida. And I wasn't like majority of them in most cases, and didn't look like any of the previous nominees. But I actually think where we do best is when we go to the places that are most susceptible to our message, the people who really want to believe, but their life example so far hasn't given them great reason to believe or to organize or to vote, and start to give them real reason to show up. It's the difference that a pollster makes between going after a registered voter who is a Republican versus a non-registered voter who, if they were registered, would vote Democratic. They're always going to go with the one that's registered because it's closer to the action that you want them to pursue, which is voting, rather than the one who has to register and then choose to show up. And what I'm suggesting is Buttigieg and others ought to make sure that they're readily and repeatedly in forums of constituencies that want to believe, that want to go and do this thing, but they need the extra push, the extra pull to do it.
Well, some would say you won that election, but that's a conversation that we
You
always
did.
have here.
Did.
Before we go to a break, I want to play this listener comment because they're talking about what it takes to up that GOTV game. So let's take a listen. I don't know if this person gave their name, but they're talking about battleground states. So in the words of Angela, Nick, roll it right quick.
So I'm sitting here on the Puget Sound thinking about anybody that can hear my voice on an idea that I think will bring out voter participation 5 or 8-fold. Battleground states, specifically, but all in general. Artists that are from there, musicians, athletes, come together at a voter fest in those areas that we need desperately to have increased voter participation. Notaries on site, food trucks, the whole nine. Those states that won't allow water across the street, really? I think it could be a viable answer to the problem that we face. This is important. That's right, Angela Rye, you know where I'm at. Tiffany, we met. Andrew, what up?
So
Okay.
I like the block party idea. What do you think, Angela?
Angela,
you
just
have
shout out to
special
the
expertise.
hometown. I just want to remind the viewers that marijuana is legal in Washington State, and the vibe that he was on, he had to be high. He was going so slow. I was like, what is happening? He didn't even remember to say his name. He was like, hey, what's up? You know where I'm at.
Yeah,
It's a voter fest.
He's feeling
What's
at
going
home.
on?
He is feeling
I'm
at home,
chilling.
and we welcomed him
But there's
there.
a
We
reason he had
welcomed
his
him there.
shades on. His eyes was sitting real low. Okay. But anyway, no, I really like the voter fest
Allegedly.
ideas. I think that there are friends of ours that run these kinds of events. Andrew, you certainly ran them on your campaign. Latasha Brown does them
you
all
put them together,
of
yeah.
the time. Block parties, they do it with local organizations on the ground in what I call black battleground areas, that are just as significant to us as battleground states. I also think Collective PAC is doing some of that work. And what's the other one? There's another, anyway, there are a bunch. Black PAC, Higher Heights, there are a bunch. And so I think that it is. Yes, thanks, Tiff. I'm sure Andrew got some he can name too. There are a lot of entities that do this work. So I love the idea, my friend, in Puget Sound. Next time, I hope you give us your name. And I would encourage you to travel down south and catch our friends doing some of this work all the time. And yeah, maybe we can have one here.
Obviously, the music pieces, the influence of celebrity, all very, very important. Certainly techniques that we tried in our campaign to stimulate voter turnout. But it can, none of that, just to put it plainly, can replace what it means for you, the individual, you, brother on Puget Sound, going to 5 other people who you know, registering them, and then moving them to the ballot box. There's no influence on planet Earth as powerful as the personal network of you to your 5 friends, 10 friends, whomever it is that you choose to influence. And that's why we've been trying to really sharpen and harp on this message of a ride with 5. You and 5 others, make that the team that you're responsible for. And I promise you, we'll see the results if all of us committed to do just that part.
I love all those ideas. But in the meantime, keep enjoying those trees if that's what you were in fact doing. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
What's up, family? My name is Michael. I'm a 19-year-old college student studying political science at a university in the metro Atlanta area. I have followed all of you for many years, since I was in middle school, actually. And throughout all of y'all's trials and tribulations, it has only continued to inspire me to keep going, to keep fighting, continue to speak up for marginalized groups in our country. And for that, I can never say thank you enough. But right now, I'm at a crossroad. So the question is, who do I need to be reaching out to at the local, state, and federal levels to join the fight? What do I need to be asking them at these levels? To constantly be providing folks with true information instead of misinformation, so that way they can make the best decision for themselves in this country come November 2024. It is not common for me to find young people who are willing to speak out and represent for most of the younger community, but I also am trying to figure out where to start, because I'm still a novice in the field, quite frankly, but that's not going to silence me. It's not going to stop me. It won't break me. I will not become complacent. Thanks in advance for y'all's support and your guidance. Love y'all.
I love that.
Oh, welcome home, Michael. I love this so much. Well, first of all, that letter that Raphael Warnock wrote to his daughter, I think that there is some inspiration in there for you too. I am thrilled that you are this involved in the process. Tiff is ATL fam, and Andrew is close enough. So I think they should definitely weigh in here. But I just got a little shameless plug real quick. I have a professional development program where we spend time on developing the activism muscles of young Black folks. I hope that you will consider joining that, because I think you'll find a lot of folks who are like-minded, Michael. And thank you for following us since you were a small tot. It makes us feel old, but we're glad you're young.
Well, if he's interested, is there a place he should go?
Oh, yeah. It's always up on the applications open up, and it's on my Instagram.
Okay.
At Angela Rye.
Awesome. And Andrew and I have spoken to this cohort, and they are quite impressive. So I hope that young man applies.
It was it Michael?
Yes.
Michael, yeah.
What was his name? Okay, Michael. One, we are exceedingly proud of you, brother. And what I love about Angela's fellowship is, yes, it is a place to plug in, but the truth is sometimes our leaders need leaders, and our leaders need inspiration. And when you get yourself in common company with people who are trying to impact and make the same change that you're trying to make, you'll find that it's much more difficult for you to feel downtrodden, alone, feeling like you want to check out, or any of those other things that you've already committed to not enduring. But by and by, those feelings do tend to creep up. And so when you have a way to plug in, and I think Angela's Fellowship offers a great option for it, please apply. Lastly, I don't think any of us wake up trying to make history any day of the week. I certainly didn't. I can't recall if I ever had a day where I woke up saying, my goal is to make history. I was always steered toward making some kind of impact, some kind of change about something that I thought was not right, usually something that interacted my personal life. And so don't feel like you're not playing on the big boy or big girl field because you're not creating laws or writing constitutions every day. That little thing that you think may be the one thing that catapults your next work into the stratosphere and recruits hundreds of thousands of people toward it. So act where you are. I promise you it'll get you where you want to go. I wish you well.
So if you're looking for specific people to join in Atlanta, I have to say first and foremost, Latasha Brown, our good sister Latasha Brown. She runs an organization, Black Voters Matter. I have never seen someone so committed to the cause, so committed to the people. She has an extraordinary team, an extraordinary ground game, and she is plugged in with all of the organizations, not only in Georgia, but all across the country. They issue grants. So I would DM Black Voters Matter, or you could DM Latasha Brown herself. She's on social media, Instagram, Twitter. But shoot her a DM, and somebody on her team will get back to you. We can flag it for her, so she'll be looking for your correspondence. But yeah, they are, to me, just top notch. With the purest intentions, and she just has like the soul of Black folk in her heart. So that's my always go-to starting point, not just for you, but for anybody looking to get in this fight. We have one more viewer question. Do we have time to get to that? Are y'all up for another one? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So this one I think is Craig. You ain't got to lie, Craig. What you got to say?
Hey guys, this is Craig Knight coming out of Brooklyn, New York. And I'm on a podcast called the 6 Degrees Podcast. And I just like to say we're very inspired by what you do. So just in the spirit of that, just like you guys have conversations outside of the podcast, so do we. One of my friends and I on the podcast, her name is Charlene. She thinks that one of the reasons why the two-party system, in her view, is impotent is because of what she calls white control trauma and white people's desire on the blue side and both the red and the blue side, because of their desire to control, has pretty much made voting sort of a non-starter or non-issue for Black people because at the end of the day, they were always going to try to want control. So that's pretty much her theory on it. I'm not sure if I agree with it, but as you do, you disagree, we do too. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Also, one of the things that we do agree on as a panel, there's 4 of us. We also think that white voters on the red side, which is most of them, think that they have some kind of skin in the game if they vote for someone like Trump. But we think that the only skin that they have in the game is skin. So want to get your thoughts on that.
I like that question. Yeah, I think if you listen to this podcast, you know how we all feel. One thing that I have to say that really bothers me is when people are like, oh, y'all some Democratic shills and y'all, regurgitating talking points. And let me just say the devil is a lie, okay? None of us on here is trying to be a talking head for the Democratic Party. The party don't ask me for nothing, okay? And I certainly don't offer anything. We are always focused on harm reduction to our people. If we're a member of any party, it is the Black People's Liberation Party, because we want to see ourselves function and thrive safely in this country. And I think, our mission, our collective mission, but certainly my personal mission that I've talked about is for the equality and liberation of Black people and all people of color. And the unique thing about that is when that happens, everyone benefits. Now, when it comes to the white population in this country, there are, outside of people under, working class white people and poor white people are certainly impacted by the same adverse policies in which we're impacted. But it's not a bad time to be a white person ever. So there is some truth to that. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican administration or a Democratic administration previously for a certain level of white person in this country. A college-educated white man is not really impacted. Well, disproportionately, the rest of society is. And so that's why I think sometimes you see on these cable news panels, people are laughing and joking, and you go in the green room and everybody's laughing and talking. It's like, if you just got off air saying something truly abhorrent and supporting Donald Trump, for example, I'm not kikiing and ha-haing with you in the green room. Like, you are the enemy of the people. And so it's not a game to us. It's not a sport to us. We're literally fighting for survival. So yes, this two-party system is harmful to us. We did a whole podcast on third-party candidates. I encourage you to have your friend watch that because we talk about how third parties could be impactful. In this election, we're riding with Vice President Harris, but the third parties can certainly have an impact at the state and local level, and eventually perhaps on the federal level as well. Y'all got anything on that?
I just have a couple of notes. My suggestion as a fellow podcaster to my good friend Craig is don't put the light behind you unless you're going for a mystery feel. And since we tell everybody welcome home, I got to talk to him like family. I would tell you guys that.
Yeah, thank you.
And
no backlighting.
Yeah, don't backlight unless you're giving a mysterious vibe. And
which totally could have been your mission.
That could have been his mission, but it's just a suggestion.
I like it.
Shout out to 6 Degrees podcast, though. And I'm glad y'all are talking to each other, to friends, and recruiting new listeners in your sphere. Y'all know where I am on this, which is power. Power acts to protect power. Power acts to maintain power. And people act in ways, if they don't feel like they have the power, they act in ways that get them most approximate to the power. And I think that's all people. And I think that's what we see happening in our political system. As one of my friends used to say, who was running for office, wasn't a friend, was a colleague at the time, I'm not looking for everybody to vote. I'm just looking for those who are voting for me to vote. And I think that's by and large how people who are running and maintaining office are thinking. I'm not trying to turn out an unknown. I'm not out here organizing just anybody. I'm organizing the people who I believe if they show up, they'll keep me in power. And you're voting for them because you're believing that you're approximate to the power, which means if they look out for themselves, then the next layer they're going to look out for is you. And I get that. And I think that that's what has the other side most afraid, that they will lose some closeness, some approximation to power, and then they won't
even
have
the whole idea though about white control. I think Angela brought up something earlier about like going on Fox and how she might not be able to control her responses to them on Fox. And there is, some level to that. I think I could handle Fox. I could, articulate an argument and debunk the ridiculous they say. But I do wonder sometimes, you see these videos that go viral of people confronting you. Like, that is the time, because you have to make a split-second decision on how you're going to handle yourself. And one, if a white person is approaching you aggressively and you feel unsafe and you feel threatened because they're in your space, you either have to decide to be dismissive. So if law enforcement shows up, they're going to see this calm black woman sitting across from this irate, crazy white woman. Or you have to immediately go spider monkey and let them know, I ain't the one and you picked the right one today. So we are going to revisit.
You got the right one, baby.
Oh my God, Andrew, I was just thinking the same thing. I was going to say Ray Charles said it best.
You got the right one. We're going to revisit an important moment in Black history. I want you to take a listen to the sound, and you may remember it.
We got action, baby. He finna do nothing. Arrest that.
I just want to flag for the listeners, not the viewers, that when sis says, "Get out there, young buck," she was talking to the brother that jumped off the boat and swam to help his colleague while he was about to throw them things. We all knew it was going down when he took that shirt off and was like, "Forget it, I'm off work. I might always be off work."
Happy 1 year anniversary, you guys. 1 year ago on August 5th, 2023, the infamous or famous, depending on how you look at it, Montgomery boat brawl went down. We have dubbed it a holiday, Augusteenth, and that was a revisited audio. And I have watched that. I could reenact the whole thing. Probably I've watched that tape about 30 times. When I'm frustrated, I watch that tape. It was such a moment of unity amongst us.
Collective impact.
Yes, it was a collective impact. And I really think that's how we have to move as a community. You mess with one, you mess with all. I don't care if I don't know you. If I see something going down, I'm coming over my phone ready to record. What happened? Everything okay over here? I think people have to know, because you only see white people act like that when they are not outnumbered. Then it's real gully. But if they know, I can't go over here and start messing with this little boy because every black mama around is going to come over here and make sure this child is okay. Yeah. Or I can't go over here and messing with this girl or call her out her name or harass her because I know every black person around is going to come and make sure she's okay. That is the superpower of our community. So I know a lot of jokes, a lot of memes and all that was made around this video.
It was had. Lots was had.
It was worthy. That. Some of those voiceovers, I hope y'all take a little time and watch it and celebrate. What do we have to go to work on August 5th? Does anybody know? Is that
Oh no, but it is worth saying that it was the young black kid who was aggressed upon by a full-grown adult boat of older white folks who had been drinking clearly and basically disrespected. He
was a grown man. He was the guy.
I'm talking about the young guy that jumped
out.
The young people.
Yes.
There was that one, but there were the two young people who, and they were still younger in comparison to this group of boaters.
Well, allegedly, we already established black don't crack.
Well, there's that. Allegedly. But it was the victims here on original cause were these two young black men, or these two workers who apparently weren't moving quick enough, weren't reacting quick enough to the drunk boaters. And
it was the boaters who
went. The drunk boaters took the parking space.
No,
right?
It was the young folk. They were trying to. They were accusing these the two black men of not responding quick enough. They weren't hastening quick enough to to
no, they were trying to.
The security
boat
guard was telling them, please move your boat, because the Harriet, yes, the boat was actually called the Harriet, was coming in. White voters had the inebriated white voters had their boat there, and the security guard was trying to explain to them, you need to move your boat. And they were being very aggressive with him and surrounding him, and he maintained his cool for as long as he could, and they got physical. And that is when he threw the black hat, which is now the national symbol for a black person in distress.
It's going down.
He took it off, and people saw the bat signal. And then Black Aquaman descended from the sea, and the nation of domination descended from the land, and it became a melee. And lessons were learned, I hope, and they got dealt with. But listen, I will say this on a serious note: had they been armed, this would have been a horrific situation. Had there not been people in place to bear witness to this with video cameras, we would have seen the impact of the criminal justice system possibly arrest these people for simply defending themselves. Had there
and heard a different narrative,
exactly, or heard a different narrative. Had that young boy not been fit enough to get in that water and swim across and get himself off. So our health matters too. He was fit enough and he was ready to address it. And I just think, the universe sends you lessons until you learn them. And I think that was an appropriate lesson to be learnt with a T.
You gonna learn today.
Exactly.
You gonna learn today.
So
can I just tell you guys one thing?
I'm just saying.
That's what I was about to say. If I go on Fox News on the anniversary of Augusteenth, I'm straight. I can do that.
Throw the hat off.
I can do that one. But just know I'm coming with the Mississippi Mass Choir group of Negroes, because it's gonna go down on live air if y'all go left. Know that. I'm not going to Pete Buttigieg y'all. I'm throwing up that black hat and it's going down. Live entertainment. Live entertainment. Not even pay-per-view. Free for view. Just know, Augusteenth, y'all invite me on. That's what we doing.
From the land and the
Andrew
sea.
is shaking his head. He's so disappointed. I'm sorry.
My Lord.
I'm sorry, brother.
My Lord.
Normally, I'm the perfectionist kid with you, but I just feel like it would be really fun. And it would be payback from the ancestors.
I want the Calvary,
I don't know if nonviolence is always the
Calvary.
answer, to be honest.
And we're not even leading with violence. We're just saying no, that it's an option if you come at my neck.
Self-defense. It's self-defense. If I feel
you know what?
threatened.
Speaking of, I know we're over, but I just want to say one thing, and I'm just going to say it vague here. If you are going to offend our historic likely president by saying things that are not accurate and then telling stories about situations with said presidential candidate that never happened because you're addicted to social media, that is also violence. And I would like for you to calm it down and to not lie on our people. Because Augusteenth is coming up, the least you can do is fact check your answers. Make sure that you're not here making up things out of thin air. It's not a good idea. And just try to keep the peace with facts. That is really important. In fact, Tiff, I didn't even mean to, but that's my call to action for this week. Stop lying on Kamala Harris is my call to action this week. If you Black, especially don't lie on Kamala Harris this week in commemoration of Augusteenth. I would like for you to stop, period. But please stop. If you got a platform, you know who you are. If you got a platform, stop them lies. It's not cute on you, boo. Stop them lies.
And watch your mouth.
I don't Apollo. I don't Apollo.
Watch your mouth. I would echo, that would be my call to action too. But not only to people who are addicted to attention, be it good or bad, for telling these narratives on social media. I pray for your wellness. And for anybody out there, I pray for your wellness with that kind of narcissistic behavior. But my call to action would be to people who follow people who don't Apollo, people who follow people who spread misinformation, share responsibly, either unfollow or don't share those things or challenge the person, but don't assume because someone has a platform and they say this thing happened that it's true. Don't assume that what they're saying because they, can correctly, get a conjugate a verb, that they are smart. There's more to intellect and intelligence to going viral. I would argue that typically fools would rather go viral. The intelligent sometimes know how to shut the what up. So Share responsibly, guys. There's going to be a lot of misinformation and disinformation out there. So just watch who you follow and watch whose stories you believe. Andrew, what you got for us?
In concert with y'all, I would just say, I know we're feeling really euphoric, a lot of the community, about Kamala Harris's ascension to almost Democratic nominee for president, soon to be, I would say. The other side hasn't kept the race for president as close as they have because they have great candidates. They've kept it this close because in the case of Kamala Harris, when there is not a salient enough attack on her based off the facts, they go gutter. And unfortunately, gutter still sometimes wins out. It certainly captures opinion and imagination. And so just know that we have to be ready every single day between now and election day to go to the hilt for what it is that we believe, and strong and unapologetic defense of the candidate that we support, because they may look like chaos now, but it should terrify you, because when they lose on legitimate grounds, their legitimate grounds of fighting, they go to the illegitimate. And those tools, they have spent centuries sharpening. And so let's not go to sleep on this thing. This race is nowhere near the end, and it will change generation to generation, day by day, until we get to election day. Power doesn't cede anything easily. And it certainly doesn't cede it without a demand. And we're making a demand right now, and it's going to stretch people, and particularly the other side, beyond its limits, is my fear, which is why we have to stay ready.
Stay ready so you ain't got to get ready.
You got to get
ready.
ready.
Can I just tell you guys one last thing?
Yes.
Please.
Watch. I'm lifting my eyebrows. I'm flaring my nostrils. So you notice anything different?
What? Your glasses?
No, you don't see my forehead wrinkles are gone. I got Botox.
Oh. Well, we should have opened with that. How did it feel? Because, I'm ready for some
my
cosmetic.
45 is showing all the way up.
But how did does it hurt?
Can you
Like,
smile?
what does it do?
No, but I'm frustrated because I told him I'm known for my
smile?
Yeah, I didn't get it done. I literally got it where my forehead lines are. But I told him I need to make facial expressions. I'm known for facial expressions, and I can't look.
Andrew, say something to make Angela mad. Let's see how she look.
I love white people.
That's gotta be her. Tim, you have no idea how much straining. Hold on. Can you see?
Wow.
Your eyebrows are moving. You look gorgeous as always.
That's what. Okay, no, they're moving. Look.
No, girl.
But I'm also yes, they are.
I don't see
You
no
have to look.
movement. I don't see no movement.
You speak pretty static. It's okay,
All right,
though.
well,
I like
it's going to wear
words.
off in 6 months, but I'm going to get some more, just
Looks
less.
good.
I was like, I'm known for facial expressions.
Well, everybody's going to know when I get it, because all them wrinkles that show
Andrew,
up
you look
every time.
handsome. Andrew, I want to let y'all know, Andrew looks handsome. When we were together in person, I even tell him, like, Andrew looks so good. I was just with Angela on a beach where no
Angela
makeup.
or Andrew?
No,
Angela.
And nobody was wearing any makeup. Angela looked super gorgeous. We were on a yacht. She didn't want to take pictures. And I'm like, no, stand up there on the yacht and take pictures.
Oh, that's because I need to lose. And
she's on this thing that she needs to lose. And when I say she got a tiny little size 0 looking body, I don't know what size it actually is, but it looked like a 0. So
6 right
y'all
now.
are both some good looking people.
Y'all all are good
Well,
looking.
we appreciate
Welcome
that, Tiff.
home.
You guys know Tiff took pictures. They're going to be out today, I'm sure.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Stay tuned. All right, before we end the show, I want to remind everyone to please be sure to leave us a review and subscribe to Native Land Pod. Sometimes I see we'll have like over 100,000 views, and our subscribers are not that high. So I know y'all are watching, but be sure to subscribe, please. And as a reminder, we're available on all platforms and YouTube. You can follow us on social media. We are Angela Rye, Tiffany Cross, and Andrew Gillum, and there are 96 days until Election Day. Welcome home, y'all.
Thank you for joining the natives. Intentional with the info on all of the latest. Rye, Gillum, and Cross connected to the statements that you leave on our socials. Thank you sincerely for the patience. Reason for your choice is clear. We're so grateful. Took the oath to execute roles. Yeah, faithful. Preserve, defend, and protect the truth, even if painful. Welcome home to all of the natives. We thank you.
Welcome home, y'all.
What's
Welcome
up,
home.
sis?
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.